was catering to the American market, and they would hire expats with American experience, but they wouldn't expect the services to be there at the company. So there's a lot of those companies that don't really understand. For multinationals, it's a different set because they're opening offices in India, and they have a subset of standards. But for when an Indian company actually gets expats, then there's, because I've worked for about 3 companies that are largely controlled by, and this is the first time I'm hearing that there are actually local visits and all that. There's nothing like that. So there's a lot of companies that are not MNCs, but hire expats. But like I handle my own visa processes because I wouldn't trust anybody else to handle it.
And most of the companies aren't set up to even.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do that. And that's where you have to get your support from those expat communities. It's the only place you can get that information. Because it's not online, it's not in print anywhere. So it's a huge problem.
I think that's one of the things that you should add is the legal stuff. Especially when an expat has to go through, police checks, and we don't know how to deal with bribes and all that,
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, because if you're working in a PwC, there's people, and then they handle all that stuff. But when it comes to visa renewals and all that, and when it comes to dealing with the local authorities and they don't speak your language, it's just funny stuff.
It's hard. You see, and you're probably sitting here and saying, well, what's the big deal? Get on with it, right? But you have to appreciate that. I work with one organization that sends people all across the world. Okay, and these people that I work with are international travelers. They're just global travelers that every 3 years they shift from one location to the other. And everything is fine. They've worked in East Asia, they've worked in Africa, they've worked in Europe, and something about India. Something about India. I think it's this cultural complexity, but it seems like it's a harder adaptation than other countries. Okay, it just seems that way. And I'm curious to know why it is, but you are so set as a nation because if you know how to thrive here, you can handle it. Any adaptation, you're so flexible because you have so many different cultures and so many it's a melting pot of diversity that wherever you go, your adaptation is likely, possibly, to be easier. Okay? You're very adaptable. For someone who's been in America, who has a very clear and particular set of rules, and they come to a very expanded and larger set of possibilities. It's difficult, right? Low complexity to high complexity. For you, coming from India, high complexity to low complexity, you're set.